Hi, Tim.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
On Friday, we all got the announcement that school is going to be remote for the rest of the school year.
I know.
How you feeling about that?
I was a little bit bummed because my last unit, I saved the best unit for last, and it's a very like hands-on, it has to be done in person unit. So I have all new stuff to plan. So I was like, wow. It's in stone. It's a rocket unit where we shoot rockets in the hallways of the building, but we can't do that. So starting it, I literally done no planning depending on that being there. So we'll see. I have nothing to go off of.
Maybe we can salvage part of those things. That'd be great. Just a quick question. Have you been able to make contact? I know with all of your students.
No, through my Google Classroom, as of right now, I have about 163 out of 180.
163 out of 180. And what are you doing what's your school system and structure to make sure you're reaching those other kids?
The emails went out, but then the people without reliable internet wouldn't get the email anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing we're doing now is kind of just asking our community to say, hey, check in on your friends, check in on your neighbors, see what they need, and just trying to almost crowdsource who needs a computer, who needs internet.
So you're planning for 180 students and
Yep.
Seventh grade. And so how many weeks do you have left total?
7.
7 weeks. Okay. All right. And in those 7 weeks, knowing your students and where they are and what you've known about them so far, what are some of those big standards, big skills, big topics that you want to go for? I heard, Tim, we talked a lot about the engineering product that the kids are going to make. And then you talked about how you wanted to have kids do a product review to get practice at the writing of argument.
Right. So this used to be one of our biggest writing units in the classroom when there was time to do that. It was a narrative nonfiction writing unit. So we wanted to really make sure that we had writing in there. And the narrative nonfiction takes a lot of modeling and a lot of work and kind of a daily journal thing. So what we decided to do is switch it over to argument. So they had to basically review their machine compared to the other machines that other students built.
Okay. So the tricky thing about this remote learning is that we know by the end of the year, we want all kids to hit that 3.0, and some kids will go extend beyond that.
Right.
And so as you think about a couple of your students again, and think about what are some, to have all kids hit that 3.0, look at a couple of the ideas in the 2.0 below, and talk without using names about one maybe small group you might pull around a particular topic to meet a student's need. So take a look at one of those if that makes sense.
I think the big one that makes sense is the one here where it's about specific vocabulary. We put out there are terms for different parts of machines, whether it's a pendulum or a wheel and axle machine. There are different things. Instead of saying we just put some CDs on, it's we use CDs as the wheels and a straw as the axle, and trying to use a lot more of the engineering terms in the kind of description of the writing of the machine. So what we tried to do is that when they wrote the argument, they had to actually, the step would be to say, okay, look, here's how you described it in your testing. Now, when you describe it in your argument, you need to really use the specific vocab of engineering.
That sounds great. Yeah, great example of how you might use that proficiency skill to do that work. Okay, great. Tim, as we plan today, I'm going to use a document called the 6 T's. Would you pull that up and we'll just take a quick look, and I'll keep on asking you questions through there. So as we're planning, we're going to think about what your topic is and what some of those learning targets are.
Okay.
And you said some of the targets are around graphing and comparing narrative nonfiction and science writing. So we already have a few of those. A task is for them to make and test something. We'll get to that in just a minute. Then the next thing is to think about how are kids going to talk to each other? What are the ways they're going to talk, both online, offline, by phone? Text. What sort of text are you going to show them? A text can be a graph. A text can be an actual article. A text can be the model that you make of whatever project you have. Keep on going down. Talk, text,
Digital tools to
yeah,
support learning.
technology.
Yes.
So what's the technology that you can use? And then there's tend. And tend is this idea of who are the students every week you're going to tend to. Ones that maybe you're not hearing enough from, ones that maybe are not hitting the standards along the way, ones that seem confused or maybe don't have the right products in their house to make whatever you're going to ask them to make. So these 6 Ps are going to kind of help us as we go through. And so at the end of 8 weeks, or you might choose to do this in 4 weeks, but at the end of 8 weeks or 4 weeks, you want students to make something that they can test and track the data and really track the data of how it's getting better every time, right? And so the task is to create something. Okay. And rocket is out because the launcher is not going to be right.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what they would launch them with, and if I want, like, what gives the unit so much power is that there's like so many competitions built into it. So I think it would take people off the even playing field. So I want to try to re-even the playing field so that the element of competition drives a lot of the engagement.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. And then if they have a choice between a car, a paper airplane, a parachute, could they also come up with their own if there's similar kids who make similar things around that?
I think so. Yeah. Okay.
So that gives them some choice. All right. That's awesome. And then the topic, what I know the topic is making, but what is the topic? Is the topic like making, testing, and improving? Kind of what's the topic?
Kind of the engineering process, like the engineering and design process. So going through like just basically the design process, is the easiest way to talk about it. So really planning, reiterating, making different things, and then kind of testing them as you go. And
okay. Do you have a mental model or a physical model of a design process? Like I know design thinking is one. Is there a process that you would use?
For design thinking, yeah, we usually, I have a slideshow with it all in there. They basically start with kind of the drawing. And then their original design, and then they build it, and then they measure it, and then they test it, and then they rebuild it, stuff like that.
What model are you going to make yourself to show your students?
I'll hold this guy a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
I am going to
have to hold their babies. It's okay.
Yes, he's been on a couple of conference calls. He's a big hit.
Okay.
He just woke up from a very short nap.
Oh shoot.
Okay. I think I'm going to do a car or a catapult. Catapult was the other one. Sorry, I didn't think of that one.
A car or a catapult. Okay. So your first step really then is to make a model and go through this first and just kind of see what it's like. Do you have time to do that today?
Yes.
And you could say, you're going to create an engineered design with this process. I'm going to show you a final product. What do you think I need to teach you in the next 5 weeks or 8 weeks to do this? And have them start to come up with some possible targets of what they need to learn to know how to do. And then you can use them and what they say they need to know to start actually backwards planning from what their actual demonstrations are, their final demonstrations on May 22nd. We know the task is to make one of those 4 things, but the bigger task is really the design process. What are the ways that you're going to get kids to talk to each other? I think that involves the technology. What do you, over time, how are you going to get kids to talk to each other?
So what I'm doing for my assignment this week is that each kid has a different learning path that they're going on. And I'm just going to offer different like conference times for those kids to go into a Google Hangout.
Okay.
So the group who's finishing their food essays, they're going to do it. They're going to be like Monday at 2 or something like that. Just have each group. So kind of divide kids up into different groups that are smaller than this whole class. Mm-hmm. Groups of, I'm thinking 10 to 20 kids, so smaller than even a regular class, and have them have like a meeting time. And yeah, we can't force all kids to be in there, but that would be the time we would try it.
You're going to continue this work, but what's your next first step this week in planning this? I'm going to call it the rocket unit. It's not. What's your next first step?
I think it's making the model.
Okay.
I think making some videos And this is where I might be able to use Billy and like, hey, challenge just my friends and cousins. Hey, everyone using the crap in your house, build a car, and I could do a competition amongst people here so we can get that spirit going of, oh yeah, here's what, I have a friend who's an engineer. Hey, this is what an engineer did. This is what stuff like that.
I think that's a great idea. And another thing that might be really helpful is your kids miss the teachers and the staff. I wonder if the teachers and the staff can
that'd be cool too. Say, hey,
a principal or a dean or a coach or
everyone make a parachute.
Yeah.
And keep this egg safe or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Okay, well, Tim, thank you so much, first of all, for everything you're doing for kids. Thanks for giving some time to think. And then we'll touch base again next week and see how it went creating these models.
Sounds terrific.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.